Hi, welcome back to Through the Rift. It's
Hey.
Keira, and I'm here with Claire and Janelle. And today we're
Hi.
talking about menstruation, our period. Let's go.
Yes. Also, we just wanted to say everyone's welcome in this discussion. It's an open discussion, so
Right.
just enjoy.
Some parts might feel uncomfortable, but I think we need to get out of our comfort zones as a society, start talking about these things so that we recognize what half the population is going through.
I agree. Actually, more than half the population. Women make up like 56% of the population. So,
Okay,
actually,
look at those
everything.
statistics. All right.
Statistics. Your girl did her research.
Okay. Well, we'll see how accurate those are. But it's all right. We'll say 56% for now.
I haven't checked yet. I don't think it's 56 anymore. But anyways, what was your first thoughts when you heard about periods, etc.? Like how old were you when like your mom or like whenever you found out?
I feel like I didn't really know about it
Really?
because I was kind of young because I
Mm-hmm.
actually got my first period the summer after the fourth grade. So like relatively young compared to other girls, like back
Uh-huh.
in elementary school. And when
Uh-huh.
I got it, it was just like a stain on my underwear. I didn't know what it
Oh.
was.
Mm-hmm.
Thought it was the number two, but no, it was not. No, it was not. I was not a 3-year-old pooping my pants. No, it was puberty happening. So, yeah, didn't know much about it, and all I got was a pad, and that's it.
Just went on from there.
Hmm.
For me, it's actually interesting because I was exposed to the internet at a very young age. So I went through a phase of like watching a lot of like DIY videos or something, or like back to school videos. I was really into that. So I always knew I was gonna get it. And these DIY videos sort of like hyped up my period or something. Like I was really excited to get mine. Just
Mm.
interesting. Yeah.
For me, I heard about it from my friend and I got really scared. But when I got mine, it was like barely anything. I don't know. It was kind of odd. And I was like, what is this?
Yeah, it's scary at first because like you're going from being a normal human being, and we are still normal, but all of a
Mhm.
sudden there's like this red.
Become empowered.
Yeah, we
Different.
become empowered with this red just gushing out at very just random times.
Oh, the feeling of being on your period. You guys ever prepare yourselves when you are on your period and try to get out of bed?
I tried to do that, but it never worked. I'm like, this isn't gonna work. And it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay,
We
I'm gonna
can't
go
control the beast.
what you
Yo,
can.
for real.
Okay, TMI warning, but funny thing. You know how all over the internet there's constantly people talking about their periods and everything? I saw something that was like being on your period is like peeing out a slimy jellyfish every time. And I was like, it's pretty accurate.
And
Pretty
it's red.
accurate.
It is. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
red. It doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about other people. It just comes.
Yeah. It do be like that sometimes, the
Yeah.
struggle, huh?
And I think a lot of the feeling with menstruation and why, especially young girls might feel fear, but even anyone that menstruates, is the anxiety with
Mm-hmm.
being
Hmm.
a working person or a student at school surrounded by your classmates who might not know much about it. You don't typically announce to the world that you're on your period. And
Exactly.
sometimes you're afraid of those leaks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And changing in restrooms.
Yeah, it's like it's interesting because I'm very open about my period. Like I'm sure all my friends know I'm very open about like my sexual health and etc. periods specifically. But there's still this sort of awkwardness being on a period. Like, I'm totally fine with friends asking me if I'm on my period, but I'm not okay when other people know. So I was like, it's like a little bit of a double standard, and I thought it was interesting to point out. But yeah.
I think as long as people come at it with like actual genuine caring and curiosity rather than being rude or like a rude curiosity, you're not someone that is obligated to teach other people. But of course, it's wonderful if people do that. But obviously, a lot of people don't know too much about periods. They don't go through the experiences. So that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think especially periods and sexual health should be talked more often because I don't know if you guys ever seen on the internet, but there's a lot of people who have these misconceptions about periods a lot. Like the most common misconception is the thought that some people think that girls can hold it in, like they can hold their
You
blood.
can't.
Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't heard of that, but
Yeah,
that's an
yeah. I've
interesting
seen that.
opinion.
Yeah, it's
It's
a very false opinion.
Yeah.
like it's mind-blowing, especially because it just really shows, like, I wouldn't say the ignorance, but like the lack of information surrounding
Right.
the topic. Periods.
Exactly.
And that's what makes it so important to be talked about, because this is a common cycle that many women go through. There shouldn't be as much misinformation in this world as there is now.
Yeah. And there's tons of YouTube videos that are just boys try period pain for the first time. And then I personally don't experience horrible cramps. I've only had one like this one time that was horrible, but that was just once. And otherwise, it's just general discomfort and not really almost on the verge of collapsing kind of cramps. Or really, it's not too bad. Like, I definitely experience discomfort. I feel it in my body, but it's not horrible. But for some people, it really hurts and they're not being dramatic about it.
Yeah. I also want to like talk more about the fact that you said some people, their cramps hurt more than like normal cramp. There's no such thing as normal cramps, but like on the average women experiencing cramps, the pain level is much greater. Or if you bleed more, or you bleed more to a point where it's a little concerning, you should really get that checked out, because I'm pretty sure, I forgot the name, endometrius. You might have a disorder that causes you to bleed more. And this also circulates back to the fact we need more sexual education, we need more awareness on this topic, because if you actually suffer from this disorder, you might never know, because it's so not talked about, it's so like cryptic. That makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like, monitor your symptoms, and if you think there's something wrong, go to the doctor, because you shouldn't be going through such heavy flows if, just saying. What do you guys use? Like, I know there's always been like a debate over like tampons or like pads. What's your personal preference? Even though we're only 14, just want to know.
Oh, have you guys heard of those like menstrual cups? Like they put it. Yeah. I feel like, in my opinion, that is not that it's wrong, but I think it's a bit like unsanitary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what do you use?
Oh, I use pads.
Yeah,
tampons kind of scare me.
That's my main thing. I think I had to use tampons for swimming because I was a swimmer and just, for fun swimming. So I used it then. And sometimes I'll use tampons, but mainly it's pads because I feel like they're easier. But Janelle, you were talking about menstrual cups. And I think I found out about them about a year ago, and I really did a lot of research, and I fell in love with the idea of menstrual cups because a lot of the times in just menstruation, the education around it in schools, girls are only presented with these two options of pads and tampons. So they don't realize there are other options out there, like the menstrual cup being, I think, probably the most popular, the third most popular. And I think that's a good concern. We always want to be hygienic. So I don't know. It's really similar to a tampon in that it goes up the vaginal canal, but instead of absorbing, it collects. So I don't know. I think it's approved. So it's not necessarily definitively unhygienic. It's always up to your personal preference, but it's actually supposed to have a lower chance or risk of developing toxic shock syndrome or TSS. Something with the bacteria, it's just not being absorbed. It's just like healthier in that way. And then I like the idea of it being more environmentally friendly, right? With tampons or with pads, like you're every single time, every use, and sometimes we're using like 3 to 5 a day. All of it has plastic. That paper is horrible. It's very wasteful, but we have to go through it. We have to use it.
I think Keira brought up two very important things that I wanted to talk about. You actually brought up toxic shock syndrome, which is, I totally forgot about toxic shock syndrome. But like, if you don't know what it is, I think it's basically when you leave in like period products, especially like tampons, in for an excessive amount of time, and you enter into a, like, I'm not exactly sure what happens. I need to search it out later. But basically, the cause is when you leave in your tampon for a reasonable amount of time, and then I think you suffer through like some kind of stroke or something. Like you faint,
all of that. Very bad symptoms. It's very dangerous. people die from it. And that's the thing that scares a lot of girls from using tampons. But
Mhm.
at the same time, it's a risk that should be known, should be taught about, but it's also a low risk. Like there should not be fear surrounding menstrual
There
products.
shouldn't. Like, also, I like to point out toxic shock syndrome is exceedingly rare. So the chances of you getting it is little, but still be careful. After 8 hours, take it out, replace it. The whole
Yeah.
shebang. I would also like to talk about the excessive waste that a lot of period products produce. You know how, like, constantly, I'm pretty sure a lot of women are going through their periods right now, and you probably use pads or like tampons. I believe there's like a certain percentage of waste in like landfills that are period products, and it's like a pretty
High.
pretty number. I'm not exactly sure how
Yeah,
much.
it has to be because every month people are using these products.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there like any more eco-friendly way of like
So
living? Not
menstrual cups definitely because that could be ideally, let's say, assuming you get that one-time purchase, it's perfect and you clean it very well after every cycle, then you should be good to go for the rest of your life. So that is basically zero waste besides that one thing, that one cup. And I 2 days ago purchased some period underwear. So that is another alternative.
I want to do that as well. I think that'll be so interesting.
Yeah, there is the concern though that it is unhygienic, but I don't know, have
No.
to do some more research. Yeah, it's
Oh.
basically like pads.
It's not unhygienic because I'm assuming after every use you're gonna take it off and wash it.
Yeah.
And
It's not like you're wearing it throughout your entire period.
like you're
No.
wearing it for the whole day. That's kind of a stupid argument, but okay. It's understandable. But
And
it's like,
actually, it might even be less or more hygienic because it has the specific technology within the liners of the underwear that get rid of the odor and the bacteria. So it neutralizes it somehow. But I think that there's going to be concerns of it being unhygienic, which is good. Whatever these companies are selling to people, it has to go through testing, it has to go to criticism so that we are sure that it is healthy to use. But I think if it becomes something that is normal in many people's lives, it'll start getting into the education system being taught about, and maybe more people will be using these more eco-friendly, possibly even healthier products. I'm not sure about the healthier part, but I think just more information on it so that we know the option.
especially with like the internet and like the more recent technological advancements in our world, we're able to have these new more eco-friendly products. Like this one isn't really recent, but cloth pads can also be an alternative if you want to reduce the waste. Yeah, cloth
I've seen
pads, like you said, period panties, Dixie cups, or like menstruation cups. That's all I know, right? Oh, there's also like a cool one, sea sponges, surprisingly.
Oh,
Like,
really?
yeah, sea sponges. It's
What is
like
that?
it's like sponges from like the sea. Basically, yeah, sponges from
That
the
sounds like
sea,
pretty
and then
cool though.
it is pretty cool. But again, it's not for everyone. So if you're curious, go ahead and try it.
Sea, meaning SEA, the water, the
Yeah,
body of water.
sea sponges. Yeah, it's a thing.
Okay, I would imagine that to be very similar to a tampon if it's a sponge.
It is. It is. It basically does
Yeah.
the same. I'm not really sure about how it works specifically, but it's a thing. If you guys are interested, check it out.
See, there's
Yeah.
more that we probably don't even know about. And I know there's also some discs that you actually put higher up. So I think if you're more comfortable with actually learning about your body in a very physical way, if you can put it up there in the vaginal canal higher up, there are also more products for that, like the disc that just catches it
So
or
many
stops.
products on the internet. Just like search it up, do your own research. We can't really tell you anything right now because I haven't done it. But yeah, I searched up a list of like period myths. I think it would be like, fun to talk about. The first myth, that is, we're always on that time of the month.
What does that mean? Like we're constantly bleeding?
On your
Constantly
period.
emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like some people out there might be like, they might say to someone who's like crying or emotional, like oh, we're probably on that time of the month. When in reality, like yeah, it's
No. Okay.
no, that's not
It
true.
is true that the hormones go up, whatever. There's some hormonal imbalances that happen when we are on that time of the month, and it might, put us in whatever moods. But we're not completely irrational creatures, and
Yeah, we're not always on the month.
what we say needs to be accounted for, like as very seriously. So it shouldn't be just brushed away, especially at other times. Like it's very rude. You don't just say, "Oh,
It
you're
is
at
a
that time of the
very
month."
insensitive comment as well. Like
Yeah.
Like, you cannot tell me out of 10 women, you can look at them and tell me one of them is on their month, when in reality it doesn't
You
work
can't
like
really
that.
tell.
You can't really tell.
Yeah, like although we're like Kira said, we're really emotional and stuff during our period. That doesn't mean like when we're emotional, we're on it.
True. All right. So myth 2 says the pain of a period is quote unquote just like anything you've experienced.
I feel like that's untrue. Like, I don't know. You know how people say like when they're kicked in like the private area for men,
Yes.
it hurts more than, getting period cramps. And to be honest, I think it's more of like if you're the other gender, you have to experience that for yourself. And to be honest, I don't think you can maybe, but I feel like it's not really right to say if you haven't really experienced it.
Yeah. And I think it might be like different kinds of pain almost.
Yeah.
Especially for me, it's instead of like the very sudden pain, besides that
Mhm.
one experience I had when I was on my period, it's more just discomfort. And unlike being kicked, it's constant, like throughout this entire week or however long it is for the individual. It's just there constantly. So even while you sleep, when you're watching TV, when you're doing your work, when you're going to school, it's there, you know? So
Yeah.
it's like this longer duration that people have to deal with.
I feel
Mhm.
like this specific myth is very sort of important to point out. First of all, I don't think we should be comparing pains to other pains and like saying, oh, they suffer more than the other. Both parties suffer in different ways. We shouldn't
I
be
don't think it's a competition.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's really not. We just don't compare yourselves. Everyone's going through something, especially when it's a period. From personally speaking, I don't suffer from a lot of cramps, thankfully. Let's hope it stays that way. So I won't speak on the behalf of women who do have a lot of cramps. But the pain of a period is very specific towards some people. So you can't just say that it's similar to like getting kicked in the balls or like getting punched in the stomach, etc. It's different, and if you really want to experience it, there's resources for you out there. Use them. So myth number 3: it is okay to dismiss our feelings when we're on our period.
I think we discussed this already.
We already
Basically,
did.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
no,
Yeah.
it's not.
But it's a very we're experiencing through a lot of like physical changes when we're on our period. So you can't just say that. Don't dismiss your feelings, but also be aware of what's going on at the same time.
Yeah, and for those not experiencing it, you don't understand, it's okay. You can try to understand, or at the very least, just respect people on their period.
Yeah.
This myth is period blood is dirty blood.
What do you mean by that?
Meaning that some people think that period blood is our body discarding of blood filled with waste, if that makes any sense. Waste in terms of like bodily waste, not like feces, but like cellular waste or like blood that we don't need. I don't know
think
exactly.
Scientifically, if I remember anything from my 8th grade health class, is that it's the lining of the uterus, and then
Yeah.
it's the cycle of like the. Are there eggs in there?
There
I think
one, I believe,
Yeah.
the one fertilized egg and it gets like shedded out or like uterine lining, basically.
It's that lining. And yes, in that it's dirty, I'm not like going to be dirty if it's bacteria, right? Like that's why you don't reuse the same dirty pad for your entire cycle. Like you're gonna discard
Yeah.
it that dirty, but it's not dirty. It's the same way I feel like urine,
Yeah, it's really, I wouldn't say urine, but it's not as dramatic as people make it seem. It's only you're not entirely shedding pure blood. I hope everyone knows that.
Yeah.
You're not
Yeah.
like passing blood through your vagina outside. No. It is blood, but it's also like uterine tissue, and then there's mucus and mucus lining, and there's also bacteria. So you're not shedding blood, and it's not dirty blood. It's just your body's way of renewing itself. That doesn't mean period blood is dirty in any way.
Yeah, I feel like anything can be dirty. Like I don't want to see other people's period bloods in a puddle in my room in the same way I don't want to see their dead skin cells piled up. It's just like
Yeah.
their body, everything's dirty. Let's say everything's dirty, but at the same time, they're not actually.
Myth number 8, called periods are shameful. Come on.
They're not.
They're not. They're really not. They're a cycle that everyone goes through. And if you think that periods are gross or dirty or shameful, you need to grow up. you need to come to terms with the fact that this is something that many women go through. Not even women, just many people who do experience periods go through every month of their lives. So the fact that you think that way is either one, lack of information, or two, you suck, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put it. You suck. And if you don't want to suck, educate yourself.
Right. I think also it's like a very innocent, especially if people are young, they find it shameful, dirty. It's innocent, but they just don't know better.
They
And
don't.
Yeah.
I would
this
call
is
that
something I feel like even girls need to learn about themselves, that it is not shameful. Like they'll hide that they're using products or whatever. And I think that's not very necessary. It's not peeing at all. Like we can't hold it in. It's not peeing, but it should be not as least shameful as like peeing, you know? We talk about peeing all the time, like, oh, I need to pee. It's basically the same for periods. Like it should be talked about on the same level.
I just wanted to point out like one thing. We're not saying if you're on your period, you should be loud and like open. You could be open, you could be loud. I'm just saying you don't have to announce your period to everyone in the world, but I believe there should be a certain amount of comfort in acknowledging that you're on a period rather than being ashamed or something. If you're more on the conservative side or you're more on the shy side, I think it's totally okay to feel a little bit like shy about it. I think it's totally fine. I think it's important that you understand what's going on and what exactly is your body going through. That's all.
Yeah. And actually, different parts of the world are adjusting at different rates, meaning some are very open about it. Like they have mandated products in women's restrooms or in school restrooms. But then also, I think in places in India, for example, they have girls go into huts for the entire duration of their period because it's shameful. They don't go in the house.
I feel like that's also another like sort of instance of like lack of misinformation. I'm not trying to criticize India anyway. I can't say a lot about that situation because I'm pretty sure it also has ties to like religious morals, so like their religion especially. So I can't exactly say so and so's wrong, but it's just sad to me.
Yeah, some tribes they have the period huts.
It's very upsetting.
Yeah.
In more like impoverished countries, I think there's less resources for women on their periods as well.
Definitely.
Women and girls. And I think Keira mentioned this before. We need more feminine products available for women and girls during their time of the month, especially in schools. This topic is very, I think, almost controversial as well when talked about in a lot of schools, whether or not women should receive or should be able to be provided with free feminine hygiene products. My answer to that, if it isn't obvious enough, yes, we do need those products. And as someone who's, I would say, privileged in like to be my sort of stance, I do have access to period products, but there's also many other women or girls who don't have access to these period products. We need more products and we need more awareness being spread. We need to reduce the stigma of periods in general. And I believe by reducing the stigma and talking out and being more open, we would thus be able to talk about it more. We should be much more open. But yeah.
Now, products in school bathrooms, I think it's definitely debated about because it obviously has a higher cost with period products are expensive. And that's also how women bear the brunt of so much. Like we have to pay for this every single time. Like boxes of pads, tampons, those are usually the two go-to.
Like $12.99. That's not even enough for like a whole cycle, essentially.
Yeah, but I think it's as necessary as toilet paper in restrooms, you know?
Yeah.
Like we don't ask that everyone bring squares of toilet paper from their home to public restrooms. So it's definitely, at this point, my view is like, it's nice, but I think eventually it'd be great if it's widely accessible for free in school bathrooms. And then also you see it's definitely a problem for homeless people, right? When they don't have money and these products are so expensive where it's a monthly expense that they have to deal with it somehow. So then often they resort to just free bleeding, which it can get unhygienic.
Yeah.
Because especially when you're homeless, it's hard to clean up, shower up.
It's hard to also have the resources needed. Like you don't have access to a water source, or even if you do have that water source, it usually is like a public bathroom or like a public restroom, which I'm pretty sure there's like lots of videos out there on YouTube where homeless women like share their experiences about being on their period. And I think one woman said during the entire cycle, she would just sit on the toilet because she would have no access to period products. So she would just bleed out on the toilet. And it's sad.
It disrupts their life.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be something that is a hindrance in our lives. You know, the periods, it comes once a month. It cannot be a hindrance. And ideally, we want to be just at our top performance throughout. And it shouldn't be the problem of not having access to products. And honestly, maybe the solution is more people try to get into those eco-friendly one-time purchase products like the menstrual cup. Period underwear is a little hard because it's harder to wash them, because then if you only have like one or a couple, you have to change them. But I think menstrual cups are a great alternative. So that's why also when donating, a lot of organizations, they say they donate to people in underserved communities for the sake of, dealing with their periods. I think the best products for those would be like menstrual cups or whatever one-time use, because otherwise they give it once and then how else are they going to deal with it? You don't want them relying on something that is uncertain. So once they get that, I really hope that more of the world uses these one-time purchase, more eco-friendly products, which I'm rooting for. Unfortunately, the menstrual cup did not go well for me when I purchased it, but I think it might be the brand. So in the future, I plan on. Oh, your mom uses it?
Yeah, I think we were at CVS, and then like my mom explained, she was like, you could also use like cups if you wanted, but
so is she fully on cups?
No, she's not. I think she tried it for like 2 or 3 weeks because my mom is a little bit more of like a heavy flow. Yeah, my mom's like her flow is pretty heavy. So she tried period cups, and it's like in her, I think, opinion, she said that it was good. It was like easy to use, but occasionally it would be hard to like pull it out because they have like tiny nub at the bottom. So like, if you're squeamish towards blood and you want to use like a menstrual cup, I don't know if that's good for you.
You really have to get comfortable with it because at the end you have a cup of your own blood.
Shot glass for vampires.
Oh, that's true. That's true. No, that's good. You can probably sell that.
I mean, I've seen a lot of memes, not memes, just like funny things over the internet, and they were just like, menstrual cups are like a shot glass for vampires. Like, I mean, if you put it like that,
Janelle's
cursed. That's cursed. I will never look at my period blood the same now.
It's okay. Just ignore what I just said. But I did a little bit of research before this podcast recording, and apparently your voice changes on your period.
Really?
Like because of like the hormones, you have like a imbalance of hormones that apparently it like adjusts your voice. So like I think some women have like lower voices. I'm not exactly sure what tone, but
That's
apparently
so cool, though.
it is. And I think they did a survey. They sent out a survey, and they said that women who are on their periods are supposedly less attractive. Like their voices are less attractive to people. I was like, that's a personal preference, but it was like an interesting.
I mean, I don't even notice any
same.
in the voice.
Yeah, I don't think it happens to a lot, but it does happen to some. I was like, that's an interesting fact. Also, random fact number 2. Do you know that the age that girls get their period started decreasing as time went on? So like in like the 1800s, I'm not exactly sure, 1500s or some, like the early, I'm talking about a little back, a couple centuries ago, women would get their periods typically near like their late teens. Like the common age would be 17.
Damn.
And 17. And if you compare them to the age nowadays, it's like usually 12 to like 14.
No, and now it's normal for an 8-year-old to get it.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure there was like the argument about growth hormones pushing decreasing the age.
Some people say it's in the dairy milk.
Dairy milk, right? Or like the chicken some people eat. It might be like the growth hormones. I'm not exactly sure about that. Do your own research. But one of the main factors about like girls getting their periods a little earlier now, like 12, 14, was like we have
Mine
better
was earlier.
better nourishment. Like we have better access to like food,
Oh, so
so
it's
we have
good.
increased nourishment. Yeah, so I was like, that is an interesting thing to know.
Okay.
If you have like, I think a common misconception is that like every girl's period comes directly after a month, which is not true at all. Sometimes it's earlier, sometimes it's later, and sometimes depending on who you are or how your body, adjusts, your period might even be very irregular for your whole life. So, if you typically have like regular flows and like a regular, around like a 28-day cycle and you're late, you might be pregnant. Check it out, but keep
Right.
mind your symptoms.
I think everyone is pretty much informed. Like every girl knows if they miss their period, oh, sign of pregnancy. But
Yeah.
everyone does have very different cycles. Some people are heavier, some people are lighter. Some people's periods are 3 days, some are 8 days. It all depends. And then the time between can probably range from 21 to 30. And that's just the average. Like there are probably some outliers. But of course, if there's any real concern, go to a doctor. But also just like be curious about your own body and search it up. Learn more about the period, what's normal, what's not.
Mm-hmm. And if you want, there's also apps out there on the internet. Like I personally use the Flow app to track my cycle, and I don't know about other people, but there's apps out there and there's resources, so utilize them. If you have access to the internet, use them. If you don't,
just write on pen and paper. I used to do that.
mm-hmm.
I don't really use that like calendar, like anything at all, to be honest. I just hope for the best.
Okay. See, I use it I'm not very meticulous with it, but what I do is like if I feel like it's coming, I check it, and if it says it's in 10 days, I know it's not. Like sometimes you feel it's there, but it's actually not. Because usually my tracker is like it can be off by maybe 3 days, but it's never off by 10. So that's what it gives me. Yeah.
Mine's actually pretty accurate. My app works well. It usually is like you said, 1 day off or 2 days off. Oh, symptoms before your period. I was gonna mention that. Depending on who you are, sometimes you might get like an indication of like when your period is gonna start. For me personally, I start breaking out like I think 2 or 3 days or like a week before my period. So like for me, it tells me that like, hey, you're on your period. So it's like interesting. I think that like
some people get cramps like
exactly
days before.
I actually get cramps after my period. After
I get it during.
You get it during?
Yeah.
I usually forget like what symptoms I get before my period, but I think it's cramps actually, and like sometimes I get like really cranky and stuff.
Yeah, we all get that.
A couple of like the common symptoms that you get before your period or during your period are like cramps. If you get like tender breasts, headaches, acne, you get nausea, fatigue, bloating, cravings, insomnia. Constipation is a common one. Have you guys heard of period poops?
Really?
Oh yeah, that just means constant pooping.
Yeah, not constant pooping, but like the urge to poop, constipation.
Oh, constipation.
Yeah. So it was like interesting to note. I'm like, your period.
Yeah.
It may not be the best time of the month, or depending on who you are as a person, but it's interesting to see how it plays out. If that makes any sense.
Any last notes before we end?
Monitor your symptoms. Check your schedule. If you have any questions or problems, ask Google or your doctor. I would suggest asking your doctor more.
Yes, definitely.
Be careful out there. Bring in a couple extra
Stay
pads.
safe out there, guys.
Stay safe out there, guys. Just like, be careful. If you think you're on your period, just let a friend know. They will. If you have a good friend, they'll help you. I hope we can all agree that majority of girls, no matter if you're like a really shitty person, we would usually help each other. So like just go up to a girl, go up to your mom sometimes, if you really need it, ask for a pad. If you come up to me, I'll guarantee to give you one.
Me too. Yeah. If I have it, I will shove you whatever
Listen,
I have.
I will do
I have a bunch of extra ones in my bag, so I just don't have tampons in my bag, so sorry guys, can't provide you with those.
Okay. Yeah, so it's like there's so much information that we can learn about just everyone in general, but also they're just a normal everyday thing that you don't have to think too much about it. It shouldn't be shameful. It's just
Yeah.
something that it's a shared experience. You're not the only one going through it. If you can find any comfort in that. And that's all for today.